What's going on, guys? Well, welcome back to the Frozen Pitch podcast. We're back better than ever. Totally going to have a kind of revamp, taking a 180 at this. And with that, I'm joined by my good friend Jack, aka Chiefs Walter Picks. Jack, give us a few words about yourself.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for bringing me on board here, Reese. So my name's Jack, everyone. I also go by Chiefs.Walter Picks. I am a content creator for the Walter Picks app, which is a social media and fantasy football insights app that kind of leverages AI to help you make the best decisions possible in fantasy football. You can definitely check out the app on iOS and Android app stores. Just search Walter Picks and follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Chiefs Walter Picks. A little bit about myself. I am from Kansas City. I'm a big Chiefs football fan. I can name you a lot of quarterbacks before Pat Mahomes, like Matt Castle, Brady Croyle, Tyler Thigpen. So no, I'm not a bandwagon.
Anything is
Grew up
possible.
liking Chad Henne, of course, two-time Super Bowl champion. Also a big KU basketball and football fan as well. Big Royals fan too, but Royals obviously not too hot right now. But we got Bobby Franchise on our team, so hopefully we'll be contending within the next 5 years. Otherwise, we'll probably trade him and just continue to suck. But happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, Reese.
No problem. So with this kind of turnaround and rebuilding, I guess you could say, it's no longer like my project. It's going to be completely twofold in a sense. So he's very big into the NFL, whereas I'm super big into college football. So I think this will glue very well together, kind of, pick up the slack where it's needed. So yeah, with that, we are going to start with my cup of tea. And I've been really wanting to talk about this for a while now. And that's the conference realignment that's been going on for the past few months now. Most notably the Big Ten. They are now going to be a 18-team super conference, which, people always compare SEC, Big Ten. This whole idea of a super conference is to compete with the SEC in reality. With the new 12-team playoff format as well, that's kind of a good way to get, more eggs in the basket when it comes to playoff teams. No longer going to be looking at just Michigan, Ohio State, or just one of those teams. You're now looking at potentially Penn State, Michigan State once they kind of get the ball rolling again. So I want to talk a little bit about, this conference realignment, because a lot of people are, bashing it. Some people are like, oh, this is a great idea, blah, blah, blah. But the big issue with the Big Ten is it's no longer geographical, right? You got Rutgers in Maryland on the East Coast, and then now you're adding Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington on the West Coast. And I want to first just kind of give a good shout out to Missouri's football coach, Eli Drinkwitz, who notably said that these football programs, these football schools, they'll be fine. They'll be totally fine with, the way that these realignments are going on. I think he was kind of bashing the Big Ten in the sense of their non-geographical ways of doing things, kind of going for those big money, big name schools. And I completely agree with him. He was saying we have to think about the other student athletes. There's softball players, baseball players who have a 3-game series, 3-game, 3-day series that could start Thursdays, most likely Fridays, I think is how baseball works. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And these kids have to leave school probably Wednesday or leave campus Wednesday. Say it's Rutgers versus USC baseball. You got to go from, New Jersey to Southern California. That's, already half of your day just traveling. You get there, you're jet lagged. You spend Thursday sleeping, kind of recovering from all this, doing schoolwork. And then you play your games Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back, and then you got class Monday morning. And so he very enthusiastically says we have to think about others, not just football. Like football will be fine. They're used to this. They only have to do it 1 day a week. Whereas baseball, this is your weekend. This is half your week gone. Volleyball, this is half your week gone. So I commend his, outlook on it because everyone's just talking about the football realignment, but this affects all sports. And so with that, I think obviously they're doing it for the money, which it's very good money in it. Because the Big Ten also signed a $7 billion TV contract. So that's got them on 3 major networks. I think now they are doing more night games, which is like solely on NBC now. So it's kind of like your Thursday night football on Amazon Prime, but now it's Saturday night football only on NBC. So that's interesting too. Jack, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that Missouri coach put it really well in terms of thinking about not just the football players, but the athletes who are not as well known nationally. The track and field athletes, soccer athletes, softball, baseball, as you put it, like they're sacrificing so much to play a sport that they may not even be on full scholarship for. Whereas most of the football players are getting scholarship money to go and play at these universities, and it might make these athletes reconsider like doing this college sport at certain colleges, and their parents may not want them to sacrifice their mental health in order to get a half ride to some college in the Big Ten, and only for them to go every other week, go play in California, and they can't even go and watch them. Like,
right.
Part of going to a school geographically that may be close to you is so your parents and friends could also afford to go and attend your games. If I have someone who I want to go see play, and I'm a Michigan fan, and they're playing a game at UCLA, and I live in Michigan, I'm not paying a $400 flight and then a game ticket to go see them at the Rose Bowl. Like, that's just not realistic. And so I think that aspect of just like geographical confinement to like where the students and the families can like support one another is blown out the window. And another thing I wanted to point out is that with the Big 12 expanding as well to get the rest of those Pac-12 schools, Arizona State, Utah, and Rado, I think it's going to look like the Big 12 and the Big 10 are probably going to shift their college football conference championship games to Vegas. Like, it makes sense.
Oh,
They both might play them in Vegas as opposed to playing them in Dallas or Indy, where they've been for the past, as long as I follow college football, 10, 20 years. And with the death of the Pac-12, Vegas is a great spot because it's a pretty neutral site with no big college football team there at the moment. And they have a great stadium there now with Allegiant, with the Raiders being there. So I think you could be seeing like Ohio State play Wisconsin for a championship in Las Vegas. Like, saying that out loud doesn't make sense. I don't
yeah,
want to see that. Like, I want to see that in Indianapolis or somewhere in the Midwest, like outside, cold weather, Big Ten football. I don't want
well,
to see that happen in the desert.
Lucas Oil is indoor, but I do
I know
commend
they
his
do
spirit.
put the roof on
Okay.
it for that.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's weird. Like, I think that will happen in the future. Not that it's been talked about yet, but you could see like Colorado playing against Oklahoma State in Las Vegas. The next game there is going to be USC playing Michigan for conference championship. It doesn't, like, geographically just doesn't make sense. And again, that also goes back to the travel. Like, you want fans of these teams, the students who support these athletes, to be able to go and see their teams play neutral site games. Indianapolis is pretty geographically close to a lot of those Big Ten schools. It's not a bad bus
Right.
or carpool ride with your friends, but Vegas, that's halfway across the flipping country. Like, I'm sorry, if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm not taking a whole week of my life to go to Vegas and spend money out of my behind to just go see my team play one game. Like, it's just not
Yeah.
realistically possible.
But you do have to realize, just coming off, I guess, the Michigan example, Michigan is such an international brand. Dude, you could pack the Rose Bowl with just Michigan fans from California.
I know. I'm
Like
talking about
that is
the current students at the school.
oh yeah, no, I get that part.
Not a
Yeah.
fan base. I just mean, like, you're there for 4 years. Your team makes it to
Right.
2 of those games. Like, going
Yeah.
to one is like crazy planning, and you probably have to plan that before the season starts, and then you plan it and say
And
they
then your
don't
team
make it
doesn't
to
make
that
it. Yeah.
championship game. Like,
Yeah.
Like, what do you do then? You're out your flight ticket? Hopefully not, but I don't
I
know. It's just
I
something to think about as
really
well.
I really hope the Big Ten committee keeps it in Indy because that is, I think, dead central for all of these teams.
Oh, 100% for the teams
Obviously,
that are currently
closest,
in the Big Ten,
right? Yeah, which
but not if you get these
USC is
California
not going to
boosters, they're not going
make.
to want to go there.
Yeah, USC is not going to make the national or the Big Ten. Okay,
I want
which
to I want to propose a different site for the Big Ten game because if you're going to say Vegas is too south and too west for the teams currently in the Big Ten,
they're going to
and
say
if
KC.
those California schools don't want to go to Indianapolis, play it in Kansas City or play it in Denver.
Play it
Those
at Memorial Stadium, Nebraska, because they won't be playing it themselves, and that is dead center of the country.
that is, and it's a great stadium, and they would definitely get a ton of attendance. But you cannot have it at a current Big Ten team stadium. I don't think that's
They
just
aren't
like
going to make
fair.
it. I think
This
it's
is
safe to
being
say
planned.
they
This is
are
being
not
planned.
even a Big Ten team.
This will be being planned for like 15, 20 years down the line. You never know. Play it at Arrowhead Stadium. There's no college football team in the Big Ten within the KC area. The closest one, as we said, is Nebraska and Iowa, which don't super much contend for legit Big Ten championships. Play it at Arrowhead. That's
Iowa
neutral
played
to
in the
both
Big Ten championship
coasts.
game 2 years ago,
Yes, they did, but they got smoked like probably
and
30-10.
I think it was like 42-3.
Yeah,
And
my
it was by
point.
your boys in blue. Oh, let's
Of course it
go.
was. And now
Yeah.
joining the Big Ten West, you're going to have USC and UCLA and Oregon. So I don't think I was sniffing the top of that Big Ten West conference.
Yeah. No.
That's just my
So
2 cents.
yeah, I do like how you talked about the mental health part because the coach did talk about mental health, and he goes, the main thing that causes depression is lack of sleep, and that's what most of these volleyball players are going to go through is lack of sleep
Yeah.
because they're not going to be sleeping their 8 hours of the day because 8 of those hours are going to be spent on a plane anyways, which I mean, yeah, you can sleep on the plane, but I can't really. But I really liked what he had to say. And the other issue is NIL, and it's the football players are the ones that really get this NIL money, unless you're, you know, you're the next coming of Christ in your, specific sport where you're getting, big NIL deals. Because Paige Bucker's out in UConn, she's getting big money because,
As she should.
she's the next coming of Christ for women's basketball.
After Caitlin in Iowa.
Yes, dude. Like, she's insane.
Yeah. And
But
Caitlin Clark, huge Chiefs fan. Just want to shout that out real quick.
God, of course, a shameless plug. Yeah, so I think NIL is also a big thing as to why these schools are joining. There's not huge NIL opportunities out in the Pac-12, probably just Nike, and that's basically Oregon is the one that's getting those deals because of, their background with Nike. But like, you're not really getting much of the NIL, all those opportunities. I mean, obviously it's a countrywide, nationwide, worldwide thing that you could get your hands on, but it's usually more out east, Big Ten country, SEC country. And so it's really just all about the money. And that, that's all they're thinking about. They're not thinking about the kiddos. So with that, good transition into college football playoff predictions.
Yes, sir.
And
Week 0 just happened.
Yes, sir. And I before we get into that, because I was thinking about Notre Dame and Navy, I despise the conference realignment because Notre Dame gets let off the hook once again for joining a conference. Not necessarily conference realignment, more as this expansion of the college football playoff, which, we will talk about in a second here. But they get a get out of jail free card because now all they have to do is schedule Navy, USC, Stanford, those typical games that they play year in, year out. Ohio State, Michigan will be back in the fray in a few years' time. And then you can just schedule your ACC opponents, which you should join because that's all the teams you play are ACC teams like Boston College, Wake Forest, think you play Florida State sometimes. And, why are we sitting as independents still? I would really love someone with a competent mind to tell me that, because everyone's realigning. Why, like, jump on the bandwagon and realign and join a conference, and the expansion of the playoff allows them to just sit back and not do that, because I think the way they have it set up is the big four conferences, because the Pac-12 is now no longer with us. RIP. You'll have the winner of the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, and ACC, which the ACC is kind of getting pushed aside like the Pac-12, but Clemson's still there. But who else is really competing with Clemson? So you got those four teams, and then the rest are the next 8 in line with ranking. I think there were talks that they would get the top 2 group of 5 winners.
The top 1 is guaranteed a spot.
Top 1, okay. And then the 7 others are just solely based off the AP rankings. And if you know me and know college football, Notre Dame will find their way in the top 12 somehow, just because they're
going to be 11-1
conference opponents to play. They don't have trap games. They have USC on their schedule in Ohio State, and that's about it. And so I just don't see where, because Stanford's not a competitor anymore. And so they can just walk into the playoff, which I hate, but that's for another time. Prediction time. I want your ideal college football playoff 4 team for this upcoming season. In order, if you like.
100%. My ideal playoff is very different from what I realistically think will happen this year. I'm going to keep my ideal one, though, realistic within quotes. I'm not going to say like Kansas and K-State are like both going to make that playoff, because that is impossible to happen this year. Maybe in the future, though, maybe. But starting out at my number 1 seed, I want to see the best player in college football and the best offensive coach in football at the 1 seed, and give me USC. USC should be able to make this college football playoff as long as they can keep teams from not scoring 35 a game. If they can just resemble a high school varsity defense, they will make the playoff, and they will go 11-1 or 12-0. The only thing I'm worried about is Utah, because they couldn't get over the hump in Utah last year. But I want USC at the 1.
Does Notre Dame score 35 against that defense? Sam Hartman.
Yeah, no, Notre Dame would put up 35, but USC would put up 55.
Okay, fair enough.
At the 2 seed, I want Michigan at the 2.
Okay.
I want them at the 2 because I want another Big Ten team at the 3 in Penn State. And I want to see these 2 teams play a second time, because I think Michigan is going to drop a game to Penn State this year. And I want them to be able to get their revenge, because they won't be able to in their conference championship game, since they have to play someone from the West. So I would love these 2 teams, who I see as the 2 best teams in the Big Ten this year, based off of quarterback play, because we're not knowing what we're getting from OSU this year. Whereas I have more trust in Penn State, Michigan's offensive lines and QB at this moment. And I just want them to rematch. I'm not a fan of either team. I would just love to see them play again. And I think that'd be awesome. And at 4, I want Texas. I want Texas to be back. I want them to prove that all the people were right to hype them up this year. I want them to go from Quinn Ewers to making a playoff and transition into Arch Manning at like the top of the sport. And again, I think this is an offensive team. And I think them against USC as the 1-4 matchup, if that game is over under 80 points, I'm still taking the over no matter what. That game is going to be a shootout. I just want to see the 2 best offenses, in my opinion, go at it in college football and see a score of like 65, 63. And then the winner of that playing whoever comes out of the Big Ten brawl, because those 2 teams are absolute monsters, just like running the ball and going out nitty gritty. So I don't think it matters who wins those games. I think any combination of USC, Michigan, USC, Penn State, or Texas against one of those teams is a great natty. And that is who I'd like to see in the playoff this year, which isn't unnecessarily not going to happen. It could, but it would take a lot to go right, specifically for USC to get the 1, just because I don't think they have a tough enough schedule to get a 1 seed.
I think you have not necessarily the right order, but I think you have the right teams besides Texas.
Texas is a little bit of a stretch.
I just see there's just in Florida State. I know you didn't mention Florida State, but people have Florida State in the 4. I'm like, where? Since when? I don't pay attention to their recruitment. I don't care. Whatever. But
yeah,
I want to see them play. I want to see them play a game this year, and then we can go ahead and do that.
Well, right. They got Clemson week 4. That'll be the winner of the ACC. It will be determined in week 4.
Oh, for sure. Now Wake Forest. Without Sam Hartman, imagine that.
No chance.
Okay. I am going to give my ideal. And I know Jack already knows my number 1.
Well, of course. You got to get the Blue Nation in there.
It's going to be Georgia. And I say this. My ideal is going to be very, very close to my actual.
Okay.
Just a heads up. Because
so are you going to build the ideal for Michigan to win, or just like the ideal in entertainment? Okay.
I guess I could have 2 ideals here, but I'm just going to do one just general ideal. And I think that's for me as a Michigan fan being entertained. There. Good combination of both. Number 1, Georgia. I don't see them messing up at all this season. And you're probably wondering, oh, why don't you have Michigan at 1? And that's because Michigan, I guess the same goes for Georgia, but Michigan can only go down. And Michigan has more flack. And I'm making this sound like my actual prediction, but Michigan can only go down and they can only go up 1. And I don't see Georgia messing up where Michigan can leapfrog them besides strength of schedule, which I think Georgia already has a better strength of schedule anyways. But Georgia 1, Michigan 2. I'm going to go USC 3 because I honestly think they'll make the playoff. I just don't think they're going to leapfrog over Michigan or Georgia, whichever order it comes in. And number 4, I like to see Clemson back doing business. And this is ideal for me because I don't want to see Ohio State in the playoff where they don't deserve to be in, like last year. Thank you. Good night. That's my ideal.
So in that, you would have Michigan beating USC to get to the Natty, and then Clemson, Georgia.
Duh. And it'll be Georgia versus Michigan. Michigan doesn't.
Okay.
And then ideally Michigan gets their revenge.
Michigan wins, but yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I will pivot into my actual, and then I'll ask you for your actual here. Actual, I think it goes the same order. 1 and 2, Georgia, Michigan. Like I said, Georgia can only go down. They won't. Michigan can only go up 1, and they can go down the rest of the way. I see more potential for Michigan to go down. I see, a loss at Penn State, even a loss against Ohio State, potentially a loss to Michigan State. I don't think that'll happen, but that's always like a 60-40 game. And so those are my top 2. Number 3, I think will be Ohio State or Penn State, whoever walks away with the game in hand, or, whoever doesn't make it out of the East as the division champs, I think will be the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And this season could go any way. Michigan can lose 2 games to those teams. It could be a 3-way tie for all we know. And I don't know what the tiebreaker is, but
I do. I'll get into that on my prediction.
Oh, okay. Word. And number 4, I think will be USC. And I've seen this prediction like across the board on all social media, so I'm not really being original here, but I think USC sneaks in and they're number 4. And I think it'll be Georgia versus Michigan in the Natty, and the boys in blue get it done, because why not? Because we're like that. All right, give me your actual, because I'm actually intrigued now.
Yeah, no, my actual is a little different from what I would like to see. So as much as I want to put USC in my playoff. I don't think I can, because if I put USC in, that means I'm taking Georgia out. And as you said, I don't see a world where Georgia's not getting into the playoff. So I'm gonna have to throw Georgia in as the 1 seed in the playoff
Okay.
here.
Okay.
I don't see them losing a game. They have an easy schedule relatively until maybe they play LSU Bama in that SEC champ game. But that system is defensively run. They have a great culture. They can just plug and play whoever they want at quarterback. It's not going to make a difference whether it's Stetson Bennett, the new kid, Carson Beck, I think's his name. I don't think it's going to really matter too much. Next, at my 2 seed, this is where I get into the Big Ten tie. I've got Penn State at the 2. And if the Big Ten were to go Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, all drop one to someone, they all end the season 11-1. That would put them all tied with the exact same winning percentage against each other. So that is like the second tiebreaker of figuring out who goes to that conference championship game, and it'd have to go to the third one. And the third one, it's like anyone's game, because the third one goes to the team whose opponents they played that year had the highest total winning percentage. So if Michigan plays a schedule where, let's just say, Michigan State, Maryland, Rutgers, Indiana all just like win 4 or 5 games,
It'll be Ohio
that's
State because they play
Ohio
Notre Dame.
State has Notre Dame on their schedule. In my just scenario, it's Penn State getting the benefit of the split by they're going to lose at Ohio State, beat Michigan, and then they're going to get into the conference championship game and beat whoever the hell comes out of the West. But I'm going to give Michigan the 3 because they're going to be the ones who's like right there in the tiebreaker, and they could just easily win the tiebreaker as well. I'm just wanting to have some fun and like put Penn State in there as well and just pretend that they win that highest winning percentage tiebreaker. They probably won't, because they have Northwestern and Delaware on their schedule, which both programs probably aren't winning more than 3 games. But you never know.
Fair
You
enough.
never know. But I do have Michigan at the 3. And then my 4 team is Clemson. I think Clemson or Florida State, whoever wins this week 4 game is winning the ACC and will have a legitimate chance to make the playoff. Clemson is 1,600-1 to win the Natty, and they have Garrett Riley, who is Lincoln Riley's brother, as their offensive coordinator, and he's going to bring in that West Coast spread it out system to a quarterback in Cade Klubnik, who is more than capable of taking that offense to leaps and bounds where they probably haven't seen since Watson and Trevor Lawrence era. So I do expect Clemson, if they can beat Florida State week 4, to cruise the rest of the way. They trap games against UNC and South Carolina. I don't really care too much. Those are going to be at the end of the year. They don't have to have any weird weather games where like they could have a bad like northeastern storm. No, they're all going to be played in the South. They're going to be my 4 seed. And I have them beating Georgia in the 4-1 matchup and actually winning the national championship over Penn State in the Natty. So I got Penn State over Mich, and then Clemson over Georgia. And I'll take Clemson. I'm going to fade the public on the OSU,
No
Michigan,
way.
Georgia. Yeah, bet it while you can. 1,600-1 right now, Clemson to win the title.
No, I'm sorry. My actual kind of goes with my ideal, and I want Michigan to win, but it's either going to be Michigan or Georgia. But 4-1 hasn't happened yet, right? In the history
That happened
of
the very first year where Ohio State
was the 4, yeah.
Beat Florida State or Bama and then beat Oregon, something like that. And then I'm pretty sure Alabama did it as a 4 over Georgia with the Tua game for Jalen Hurts.
I guess I don't know what I'm
pretty
talking
sure
about.
That was a 4-1. We've seen it happen 2 or 3 times, and then every time the 4 seed is beaten the 1 seed, they've won the thing.
Okay, well, if Clemson or whoever's the 4 beats Georgia, because I think we have a crystal ball here. I think Georgia's gonna finish 1, but
see, yeah, I almost had Clemson as my 1 seed, but Georgia's not losing. Like I can't just say that they are. But if Georgia were to slip, I think they'd be the 4, and I think Clemson would be on the 1.
I don't think Clemson is fully back yet. Like I said, I don't pay attention to recruitments besides Michigan because of me being me. But I think if it's as completely unbiased, if it's anyone's year, I think it's Michigan's, just because of the return rate. JJ, I've heard, has been in the lab. Like, the way he torched OSU's defense in the secondary, I've heard that he can do that to any defense, whether you run the ball all night or you pass the ball all night. Because obviously he was able to throw the deep ball because OSU game plan to stop Donovan Edwards, which they couldn't do either because he ran for 170 yards in 2 plays. But I don't, yeah, I for a Michigan fan, if it doesn't happen this year, it's like, we're not going to fire Harbaugh, but it's going to be a little bit. We'll have playoff appearances and whatnot, but I don't think we'll touch.
You're never going to be as complete and ready with the momentum as you are right now.
Yes,
it's the momentum that you have right now
because we have experience. Because we have experience in the playoff now.
And you're going to have to deal with USC and UCLA soon. Like, this right. is the time.
And no division setup in 2024. It will just be a complete conference setup.
I like that,
which
for the Big
is going to cause so much more havoc at the top, because the tiebreakers will actually come into play.
They will.
Because you'll probably have a 4-team, tiebreaker at the top. And I've heard there might be talks of them implementing a Big Ten playoff. So it's no longer the top 2. It's the top 4 have their own playoff. And
that would be crazy. And they'd have to cut some cupcake games week 1 and 2 to make that happen.
Because I think they're seeing that there's most likely going to be like a 3-way tie at the top. So they'll be like, all right, just play it out. And, and I heard they will keep that in Indy until they, get this contract and whatnot with Vegas signed. But
as someone who's unbiased to the Big Ten, I just want the 3-way tie for the chaos. I know it's not the most mentally healthy thing for you to go through as a big Michigan fan. But as for someone who just does not really have a team to root for, the 3-way tie just sounds awesome. And I want Penn State to be rooting for Northwestern the whole year and hoping they win 3 games to boost their winning percentage up. I think that would be electric.
I mean, in order for Northwestern to win 3 games, they got to play them overseas.
Yeah,
because they have not won in America. They have not won in America in, I think, 3 years. A Big Ten game, I think, because I think they've got a couple non-con. I think that's the stat, is Big Ten American games. That's insane.
That's crazy. Last little note. Yeah. I want to get a Heisman prediction out of you. I've got one that goes with my current playoff predictions, and I actually bet this in July. I was ahead of this. The number was 75-1, and it now looks like it's 25-1.
It's got to be Caleb Williams.
Yeah, no, definitely. He was definitely that high. No, it is Penn State QB Drew Allar at 75-1. I got him in July to win the Heisman. And if the narrative just goes right, and if Penn State is able to beat one of Michigan or Ohio State, like, their narrative is there that they're back and Franklin's got this program really kind of kick it in gears. And if they just stay in that top 10, top 5 ranking, this is a media award. It is not necessarily best player in college football. It is best storyline backed up with best stats in college football. And no one has won a back-to-back since I think George won back-to-back way back in the day. And so the odds for Williams to win again, obviously he's the best quarterback in college football right now, the best quarterback we've seen in a long time. He's 550-1. I'm just not betting those odds at all. So if you want a good sprinkle, he's 25-1 on FanDuel right now. I got him at 75-1, Drew Allar to win the Heisman.
Do you want mine?
Yeah, I want your Michigan and the non-Michigan one.
But they're the same. Hey, Jack. Hey, Jack, what's my fantasy name?
I think your prediction will be Mr. Quorum.
Yeah, Quorum for Heisman. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep. No,
what are the odds on him?
I don't know. I don't have that in front of me.
I
think he's got 4th best odds, and JJ's got, I think, 6th or 7th.
No, there's no chance Quorum's even higher than any quarterback.
Well,
Blake
he's higher
Corum
than
is
he's high.
20th best odds, right ahead of Brock Bowers.
He's 20th?
Yeah.
Where's JJ?
JJ is like 10. It's a quarterback award or
Well,
a
I
receiver award.
know.
It's so hard for a running back to win this award.
I know, but
JJ is tied with Hartman at like six best odds.
I'm sorry. But Corum was literally in the Heisman conversation until he got injured. If he had the plays he had against Ohio State that Edwards had, he was walking out of New York through security and he's beeping through that security machine because he's got hardware on him, bro. I am telling you, if he played in that OSU game, it probably would have been a different game, but he was walking out of New York with hardware. I'm just saying that. And that's the truth. Where's Edwards on that list? Because I think he's tickling.
Yeah, let me find Donovan Edwards here too.
The Heisman odds, because they're now putting him right up next to Corum for. And then people are saying Michigan doesn't have the best running back room in the country. Are you kidding me?
No, they 100% do. There's no competition there.
People are saying Penn State's, but everyone's kind of riding Penn State.
Donovan Edwards is right behind KU quarterback Jalen Daniels. Actually, he's at 10,000 to 1.
You know what? That's probably deep down that list. There's probably not like a.
It's like 25th. Ranking.
And you said Corum was 20th.
Yeah.
Whatever. Corum. Only way is up for Corum. He'll claw out of that. He'll claw his way to New York.
Is who's the LSU quarterback? Is that JT Daniels or is it Jaden Daniels? Okay, no, it's Jaden Daniels. Sorry,
LSU.
He's second. He's second highest. And I saw JT Daniels, and I was like, that's not the same person. No, it's Jaden. He's second highest.
He's second.
Yeah, he's the only one close to Caleb.
LSU's quarterback.
Yeah, he's 1,000.
And you said Caleb's
at 5.
5 to 1.
5 to 1. 10 to 1 for Daniels.
10 to 1 for Daniels.
Yeah, 1,000.
LR is
25 on FanDuel. 25 to 1 right now. I got it at 75 on DraftKings in July. So before college football got more steam going. So I got that bet in early and got a really good number there.
I'm just saying Hutchinson was in New York and he wasn't even an offensive player.
That is true. I don't know this year with the offensive weapons around college football. I don't see a defensive player coming close to this.
I think it's quarterbacks that are in New York this year. Because 100%. I mean, as much as Corum's going to have a great year, as you know, I pray and hope he does, because I think he deserves it. Not just me being a Michigan fan and like hoping that one of my players is there. I genuinely think like he deserves it because I think he would have been in New York last year if he didn't get injured. And obviously people would just be like, well, that's life, whatever. But you know, whatever. That's also a storyline. I think that's out there. But you know, like whatever. We'll see when the time comes. But it's going to be a great college football season.
It sure is, Reece. And I hope all the best of luck to you and your men in blue for your mental health this fall.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'll have a heart attack or anything until what is it, like week 8 or 9 when we go out to East Lansing. But, you know, I might just be shooting myself in the foot by saying that. But we shall see. Well,
yes, we shall.
Mr. Jack, great talking to you.
You as well.
You know, we'll get this thing rolling. We'll just keep on firing away at these episodes. And like I said earlier, complete rebrand. So I think we're going to be collaborating on a new name for the podcast because it just doesn't really have its true meaning anymore. RIP Frozen Pitch Podcast. But we'll be back better than ever. So hope you guys all enjoy this episode. probably be a weekly basis. We're still touching base on that, but expect episodes every week. And we will catch you in the next one. See ya.
Take care.